I'm going to say this straight up. Probably since he was a freshman in high school, there was never a better defender on the field than Nick Bosa. And I can stand by that, and I actually truly mean that. How you guys doing? This is Monday, June 1st, 2020 here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. And I'm just going to kind of go in on one of the players who I think is incredibly elite based off what he's done in the NFL. And I just think it's him proving that he's elite at every single level. And he's basically showing that every time he steps on a football field, your main priority as an offense is to stop him. So I'm just going to get into a little bit of just like his background, just who Nick Bosa is. So, I mean, just Nick Bosa himself, the athlete, he's a 6'4". Right now he stands at about 266 pounds. Incredible athlete, just... I mean, he's an amazing athlete for his size, and considering just his combination of size, speed, strength, and intelligence, I think he's one of the league's best. Even at his age, he's only 22 years old, and he still has his entire career ahead of him. So basically, starting off, giving you some background. He was originally ranked by ESPN as the third ranked prospect in the 2016 class. He was an All-American at St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A really, really big football program where, of course, his older brother Joey would be a 5-star prospect that would go to Ohio State and take college football by storm. I guess as the younger brother, he was expected to, if not match, exceed his brother's expectations. And of course, he went in and he kind of really never looked back. So going into his freshman year, he would play all 12 games. He would play 12 of the games. Finishing with just 7 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and the amount of reps that he had, which as a freshman at Ohio State, when you have top prospects on the defensive line just shuffling in and out, making their way to the pros every year, because that's the elite prospect factory that Ohio State is. And of course, in his 2016 season, Ohio State would go 11-2 and then lose in the Fiesta Bowl to Clemson 31-0. But that was kind of his legacy. But he was simply just getting started, and by that point, he had solidified himself as a for sure starter in that organization. The next year, his sophomore year, he would play in 14 games where he would rack up 16 tackles for a loss, 8.5 sacks, and even then he would go on just to win the Smith Brown Defensive Lineman of the Year award for the best lineman in the Big Ten. He would also be first team all Big Ten as he played the entire season. And then the Ohio State Buckeyes would finish 12-2 and win in the Cotton Bowl against USC with JT Barrett as the quarterback. And then even in the next year, as a senior, he would go on and play only 3 games, where he would rack up 6 tackles for loss and 4 sacks in those 3 games. But at that point, he had gotten injured, and there was question as to whether he would return by the time Ohio State made the playoff. But after he got injured and he knew that he was one of the draft's top prospects, he decided he was going to sit out the remainder of his junior season, which is fair, because he knew that he was going to be a top prospect, and what's the point of coming back a little early and risking getting injured again? And even right now, it's shown that decision has most definitely paid off. So, I mean, that's where Nick Bosa kind of is right now, and they would finish off the season winning the Rose Bowl after going 13-1, beating Washington as a 5th seed. They were 1 seed out of playing in the playoff. So, of course, Nick Bosa didn't play. And over those 2 years and over those 3 years, 2 years and 3 games, he would go to the combine where, of course, he would, just stand apart from others and show that he's an athlete unlike no other, and that he might be in competition with his brother Joey for the best Bosa on the field whenever they played. And after that, he would end up getting taken 2nd overall in the 2019 NFL Draft to the San Francisco 49ers, where in his first season, he would, in his 16 games that he would play, he would start 14 of them. He finished with 16 total tackles for loss. I mean, he's No, he became a beast. He would finish with 9 sacks on the season. He was named the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he was named a Pro Bowler in his first season. And that's really where where it all starts. And he also helped San Francisco. He helped launch them into the Super Bowl. I forget when they lost. They lost in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs, and it was a very, very close game, and there was a point at which it looked as though the 49ers were winning, but every single game along the way, Nick Bosa made one or two amazing plays to help put the 49ers in that position to win. And even now on this 49ers team, I would argue that he is the best defensive player on that team, and just showing how the Niners were able to turn around from getting Nick Bosa for as high as he was in the draft, and they still would turn that around, finish with the best record in the NFC, and the San Francisco 49ers would end up being a top 5. They were the 5th ranked scoring defense in all of football, in a tough division with Seattle and the Rams and the Cardinals as well. So the fact that they were able to do that, make it all the way through the NFC, they blew through the NFC and made it to the Super Bowl. And Nick Bosa was a really, really big part of that. And I think that's just what makes him elite. I mean, he makes his defense that much better. And of course, it's not just his presence. Of course, you have Richard Sherman in the secondary. You have young players like Solomon Thomas, DeForest Buckner on the defensive line. I understand that. But I think Nick Bosa was really the straw that broke the offensive camel's back, in that once Nick Bosa was added to that defense, they were virtually unstoppable. And then from then, from right now, it looks like the San Francisco 49ers defense and their offense can't be stopped as well, obviously, but under Shanahan, but their defense has been able to hold its own, become a top 5 defense, and had Patrick Mahomes not turned into Superman in the second half of the Super Bowl, Nick Bosa would have he would have a Super Bowl win in his first season after being the Rookie of the Year and being a Pro Bowler, but he didn't get to play in the Pro Bowl because he was in the Super Bowl, because they played the Pro Bowl before the Super Bowl. So that's kind of the situation here. And I guess if I had to give him a player comp, just for how big he is, how strong he is, even though he's not that big, I still think that in a couple years he'll be as dominant as J.J. Watt was when J.J. Watt was at his peak in Houston. I definitely see defensive player of the years in this guy's future. He works incredibly hard, and you can see how much better he's getting every game. You can see just how determined he is, and considering this is his first year, how he was able to pick apart passing schemes, or run blocking schemes the way that he does. There's no way. I don't think he's slowing down, and knock on wood, if he doesn't get hurt, I definitely see him making that second-year jump. I mean, he's that dynamic of a player, and I imagine that even after 9 sacks in the game, that he's still going to get a lot better. Of course, always keep an eye on his brother Joey, because Joey's kind of doing the same thing in LA, but Nick already made it to the Super Bowl, so I'm kind of focusing on Nick, and I'll get to Joey when I get to Joey. But for how good he's been as a young player, of course, like, he said some things, but I don't care. Like, as long as he makes the right football play in the end, that's what he gets paid to do, and I think that's incredibly fair. But for the San Francisco 49ers, he's done a really, really good job of helping that team turn around from being one of the worst teams to one of the best. For me, he was the only elite player that I could include on this list, just for what he's been able to do and his ability to prove that he's an elite player. And just really with that said, going into, just like, if you're a football fan, I know you're an NFL fan, the San Francisco 49ers are a must-watch team because, of course, Mike Shanahan is the coach. He's an offensive genius and all. But you're going to have Nick Bosa being the center, the central force of this defense. And I think the defense is going to get a lot better, especially as Nick Bosa gets better. And yeah, I mean, if you ever get a chance, watch the San Francisco 49ers play. Nick Bosa, number 97, weak side defensive end. He plays wherever he really needs to. And that's really kind of my spiel. I appreciate you for listening to all 10 minutes of this. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, and say peace.